Aren't we blessed by our music ministry? Absolutely. So there's a little bit of irony today. I noticed that it said "Testifying to Love" is the title of the sermon. That was a little news to me. Guess we got a little wires crossed, because the original title was "The Bridge of Love," right? And it's a little ironic, because some of you may know I used to be an attorney, so I guess we'll have to testify to love today. Which works, actually. Why don't you all raise your right hand and let us affirm the following affirmation. I am love. I am love. All right. Well, we know from our second principle in unity that we are all part of God and that we are all part of the divine love, right? It's a foundation of what it is that we believe. We understand and know that we come from original goodness and beauty and not original badness or something that needs to be washed away. And we celebrate that life and we bring it into every moment of our lives. And, that having been said, of course, we all sometimes share a common misconception. We miss the mark a little bit that maybe we are not in God, right? That we are not love. And we feel a sense of separation from that principle of love that we call God. And this is a perfectly natural misconception, of course. When we first enter this world, we're there in our mother's womb, completely taken care of, right? Nice body temperature, constantly being hugged, all of our nutritional needs being met. I guess if we're hungry, something just, whatever squirts in there, I guess. I guess when we're done with it, I guess it just shoots back out or something. But when you have that level of oneness, right? From that point on, it's all downhill, right? Some doctor slaps us on the back and we start yelling, and half the time the people show up with the wrong thing, and sometimes they don't show up at all, and it really makes you feel this separation from your source of who you are. And sometime later, after we've developed language and the ability to talk about these things, we've gone through years of this experience, this habit of being in this body, of being separate from you, from me, from our source. And so, depending on our soul and our family of origin, then we're affected by this feeling of separation to various levels, right? Some are okay, some are not. So about 4 years ago, I became a father when I met my now wife, Diane, and she has a now 14-year-old Trevor who's going on 38. And little Sebastian is 7 now. And I came to understand a deeper level of joy and love and commitment. And as a father, we get to be a witness to them moving from into adolescence and into adulthood. And I remembered when I was a kid that I got to go to San Francisco. I grew up in Orange County in Laguna Beach, California. And we got to take a tour of the Golden Gate Bridge. And it's really an amazing testament of human engineering, And it made me think of being a dad and what is a bridge, And how does it apply to our core principle that we're celebrating this month of love? And, a bridge is technically a structure that connects two land masses together. And I thought that that was an excellent metaphysical description of what love is. For in childhood and in our journey forward, we're always seeking to connect with that love. And we are moving in the direction of love, moving from one place where we were to one place where we can be in every moment. And at school I've been reacquainted with the Old Testament and some of the wonderful writings, and one of them is Psalm 23, and it's, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," right? And I brought this new perspective as I was thinking about this talk, and I realized that all of these sentiments in that psalm, that the Lord maketh me to lie down in green pastures, and though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, are all metaphysical manifestations of everything that we go through. And the whole sheep and shepherd thing kind of amused me, and reminded me of the guy that pulled up to the red light, and there was a truck next to him with a bunch of sheep in the back, and he said, "Hey, you shepherds really don't move your sheep around like you used to, huh?" And the guy goes, "Oh, I'm not a shepherd, I'm a butcher." Didn't work again. Anyway, it's a tough crowd. It is. So anyway, this whole aspect of love is the bridge from one place to another, and the defeat of these sheep thoughts in the favor of our Christ thoughts and our Christ consciousness. And I just want to make 2 points about it. The one is that love is this bridge, and we're celebrating our Jaggles, our core values here in the Northland, and that love is this bridge of life, and that it is a deep ingrained pattern within us that all we have to do is tap into. And using Psalm 23, I'd just like to look at love as this bridge to life in every moment. And the second point would be love as a bridge away from the adverse ego. And it starts off, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want," and of course the Lord for us we change to, "Love is my shepherd, I shall not want." And when I am in my Christ consciousness, then I allow that love to shepherd me, to guide my actions. Love is the harmonizing power of the universe, our experience of life. And whatever happens in our life, whether we see it as good or bad, it is. There's a wonderful new theological idea of soul agreements. Any of you familiar with soul agreements? Okay. Well, the theory is that before we come to this planet, that every soul we've ever come into contact with, we've made an agreement with. And as we're there in the love of God and the collective oneness, we make decisions about what it is we need to experience, to grow, and to move. And Paul Coelho is one of these people, and he writes, "Important encounters are planned by the souls long before they see each other." So this theory says that we decide what we want to experience or to learn in this life, and in the process of returning home and as we're growing in this life, to achieve that goal, we all get together and we all decide, who is it that I'm going to be for you? So for example, perhaps in this lifetime I say, I need to learn patience. And little 7-year-old Sebastian or little 14-year-old Trevor steps up and says, I will show you patience, right? I will provide you lots of opportunities, not to just practice patience, but to really embody it and to be it. And those times of enactment are when we are in love, when the Lord is our shepherd and we are bringing forth our best and our highest good for everyone in our lives. Sometimes it's taught through paradox. My father is an example of paradox and how love approaches differently. See, today we'd be able to label or identify him as an adult child of an alcoholic, right? And during my childhood, he battled a war within himself. And sometimes his inner violence became his outer violence with us and my mom and my sister, emotionally, physically, lots of different ways. And I realize now that life didn't always turn out the way for him that he wanted it to be. You know, he strove for some sense of love from his mother, and he never received it, even unto her death. And it doesn't excuse abuse or anything, but as I strove to become a better person in this unity movement, or as a minister, as each of us comes and we are moving through our lives, that we are able to tap into that lesson of any individual who may have agreed to teach me something about myself. Decades later, through years of recovery work and healing and therapy and just working on myself, I can now love him wholeheartedly for who he is. That he did the best that he could with what he had. And my level of compassion for him and for anyone I meet in my life like that is a barometer of my spiritual health. So, for me, the gift that lies behind any relationship like that allows me to fall on my knees in thankfulness, gratitude, that walking this earth, how magnificently everyone who comes into my life plays the exact role that they need to play for me. And to truly practice that unconditional love. And as I continue to grow and continue to think of these things, I realized he's the perfect mirror for me. You know, can you think of somebody in your life right now, sitting here, who even now you might dislike, or who has wronged you? And can you see in some ways that it is not about them, but it is about something within us? What allergy do we have to them? These allergies are indicative of places in our lives that are in need of healing. For example, do your allergies react when you hear the word Jesus? Right? I know that was a big one for me. You know, I still think it's ironic that I'm kind of standing here, as a minister. You know? But when I put Jesus into a proper perspective, and when I look at the healing places within me, within the embedded theology that I grow up with, that I've learned and grow, and I thank God that Unity co-founders Charles and Myrtle Fillmore have placed that back into a proper perspective for us, so that we can grow and learn the values of this man who lived and who showed us the way to get to these understandings in life. So when I recognize my allergies with my father, or passive-aggressive people, or sexists, or racists, or egomaniacs, or whatever it is that sets me off, or that sets you off, I know that there is something in me. Why? There's a reason that is being triggered. And so I don't need to just forgive. I embrace the wholeness of who and what they are, and where they are, and what they have come from. And I grant them the shepherding vision to be the Christ that they are in their humanness. I know that divinity within my Father did the best that he could, and that allowing that allows us to move forward and for me to learn. So love really is my bridge, that which brings me from a place of where I was to where I am to where I may be. So when I'm in my judgments of others, or feelings of anger or resentment, or any of the things that shape our human experience that are not of our Christ nature, and I can recognize it, and I can consider that perhaps there's a sacred agreement between Father and Son, between me and you, and me and that other. And so I invite you, as you sit here, to think of someone, maybe a coworker or acquaintance or spouse, whoever, that where there is even the shadow of the possibility of a literal or metaphysical soul agreement between you. And ask yourself, how is this person the perfect mirror for me in this moment? Showing me the way to my soul's own unfoldment. And then you just shift that slightly to a witness perspective. To love as the way of finding life, and to see how that magnificent, perfect Christ soul is guiding me and you to the truth and the purpose of our being, and that is love. That is how we allow love to be the bridge to life in every moment. The psalm goes on and says, even though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death. And Jesus himself wrote, fear not, little flock, that it is your Father's good pleasure to give you all the blessings of the kingdom. Fear, we know, is the signal that we've taken our mind off of this goal, right? That we've shifted away from being there in that moment of love and potentiality back to our human self. And we're able to get underneath it then, in that awareness. We know that God's abundance, prosperous love is showering down on us like Niagara Falls, right? And that we are there underneath it, and we can grab as much of it as we want in every moment. So what are you holding? Are you holding a thimble? A barrel? Can it be a pool? Can it be an ocean? Can you take all of that and just continue to keep it? And we do that, we expand that by being in love, by being in that moment of awareness. As we continue to surrender into being, allowing love to be that bridge away from the adverse ego, then of course it takes courage to do that. It takes awareness, and then to live in a state of constant awareness, of change and transformation. Right? That's to evolve. And to no longer being ruled by the sheep thoughts, but by the Christed thoughts. That is the meaning of life. That's perhaps why we have these soul agreements to be here. Even if it's not an actuality, it's still a way of approaching others. We can consider the following. When something comes up, that when something in us needs to change, what is it that you need to do? Are you in a moment of transition in your life right now? Are you in a relationship that you're trying to figure out right now? Or are you surrendering to that love? Are you offering to get beyond that adverse ego of human reaction and to know the wholeness of who they are, of who you are, that you are both divine expressions? And just in conclusion, so I see it, love that we celebrate here and that we say is one of our core values is the great neutralizer of the human condition. Right? It allows us to connect. And it's not one landmass to another. It allows us to bridge anger to peace, fear to embrace, shaky ground to more solid ground, and from human mind to more Christed awareness. When we know that love is the way of being, that it is who we are, then duality falls off, and we're able to experience everyone and everything in that blessed way. So if doing so calls you, I just invite you to bring that person or situation into your mind. And we'll just pause here at the end and take a breath. And I found this reworking of Psalm 23 that really emphasizes love instead of the old theology. And so I share this with you. If you'd like, you can close your eyes or whatever. Love is my shepherd, I shall not want. Love allows me to lie down in green pastures in every moment. Love leads me beside still waters. Love restores my soul. Though I may walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for love is always in my heart. Love prepares a table before me in the presence of my enemies and fills my cup to overflowing. Surely goodness and kindness shall follow me all the days of my life, and I dwell in the house of love forever. And so it is.